In the previous class, we have seen like how the CMOS inverter works with respect to different region of operation of NMOS and PMOS connected to the CMOS inverter. Okay, so once we have analyzed, we will be going to analyze the switching characteristics of a CMOS inverter. So basically in the previous lectures, we have seen the static analysis. Okay, so we will see now that how the switching of the voltage levels takes place internally and what is the role of a capacitor uh, in changing or in deciding the output voltage of an inverter. Okay, so we will see this into the coming lectures. So one thing we can note is like any inverter is there, suppose any inverter is there, and along with that one more inverter is connected. So we will be basically seeing like this is an inverter symbol. Okay, suppose after that one another inverter is connected. So we will be basically connecting. Okay, so one inverter is connected and in cascade with this another inverter is connected. Okay, so how we can analyze?
सर आपकी पीपीटी नहीं दिख रही है।
पीपीटी नहीं दिख रही क्या? हाँ एक मिनट।
दिख रही है सर, दिख रही।
बाकी लोगों को दिख रही है पीपीटी?
हाँ सर दिख
यस सर दिख रही है सर।
ठीक है ओके। So we will be analyzing like one inverter is connected and along with that one another inverter is connected in the same way in cascade with the first one. Okay, so in respect to this that we will analyze like how the effect of this second inverter can be incorporated to analyze this first inverter. Okay, so first of all we will see the first inverter. So an inverter circuit is like one PMOS. This is your PMOS. Okay, this is your PMOS and this is your NMOS. So one PMOS and an NMOS is connected in this configuration to design a CMOS inverter. So once this CMOS inverter is there, to have the switching characteristic analysis, we will be dealing with the different parasitic capacitances involved with these transistors. Okay, so while discussing the capacitance of an MOS device or any MOSFET, we have seen different type of capacitances. So suppose this is the uh, PMOS and this one is NMOS. So in the NMOS, we can see like what are the different capacitances are there. So one will be CGS. This N stands for NMOS. So this is the capacitor associated with gate to source terminal of this NMOS. And another capacitor is like gate to drain terminal. Okay, so this will be given by CGD, and one more capacitor will be drain to body, and one another will be from source to body. Okay, so CSB. So similar to this, the PMOS will be having the similar capacitance configurations. Okay, so if any device NMOS or PMOS is connected, these are its parasitic capacitances. So this CGD and CGS will be because of the oxide. Okay, so we have seen in the capacitance section like these capacitances are because of the oxide layer, and these CDB and CSB will be the junction capacitances. Okay, all this there are another capacitance like CGB is also there, so that will be a very less value, so we are not including it while analyzing this. Okay, so this will be the total capacitance associated with the first stage of the inverter. Okay, so this is the first stage. So along with this will be the different capacitances associated with the first stage. Similarly, second stage is there. If suppose same inverter is connected at the output. Okay, so this is the N, another will be, suppose here we have connected. Okay, suppose this is your PMOS, this is NMOS, and this is PMOS. Okay, this is again connected to VDD. Okay, so suppose this is another inverter connected to the output terminal of the first stage. So because of this second stage connected inverter, some capacitance will be associated, or some parasitic capacitances of this will be reflected at the input terminal. So these capacitances are given to be the CG. So these are the gate capacitances. The overall capacitances, whatever stage connected to an inverter. Okay, so this stage will be having the output connected to the output terminal will be having some capacitance, and that capacitance will be because of the parasitics. Okay, the parasitics associated with these transistors connected at the output terminal. Suppose that capacitance is given by CG. Okay, and to connect to one inverter, the first inverter, to the second inverter input, there will be used some interconnects. So some interconnects will be used. So these interconnects, these are like wires. It could be a metal wire, okay, or polysilicon wire. So this metal will be having some capacitance. Okay, so the capacitance associated with these interconnects will be given by CINT. This is interconnect capacitance. Okay, and along with these two capacitance, the parasitic capacitances out of this, for this and for this, out of 8 capacitances, we will be only considering the capacitance that is associated with the drain terminal. So this is drain terminal of PMOS also and NMOS also. So we will be only considering the capacitances that are associated with the drain terminal. Okay, why? Because this gate to source capacitance and gate to source capacitance of NMOS and PMOS will not be of that much value, and we will be neglecting it, because input, this it is connected between input and the output here, input and the VDD, and it is connected to the output into the ground. So these are being changed, because why we are neglecting? Because we are taking output from this terminal and input from this terminal. So how many capacitances that are between input and output that we will be considering? So that's why this capacitance and this capacitance will be neglected. Another is like uh, source to body. So in this case, source to body, source and body terminal are connected to each other. So there will be no potential difference. So potential difference is not there. So this capacitance will also be neglected. And similarly, in case of NMOS transistor, the body and your source terminal are connected to each other. Okay, so these are having a similar potential. So this capacitance will also be neglected. So the remaining capacitance will be the capacitance because of CGD of PMOS and CGD of NMOS. These will be oxide capacitances. Okay. And second will be, these are the CDB, that is drain to body terminal, and again drain to body terminal for the NMOS and PMOS. That will be there. Okay. And along with that, one interconnect capacitance will be there, and one capacitance that will be because of the next stage. That next stage will be either in another inverter, or it could be any number of transistors connected to the next stage of first stage. Okay, so this is first stage, this is next stage. Okay, so whatever next stage is connected, that will be considered as the having a capacitor that is of CG value. Okay, so these are the total capacitance called the parasitic capacitances. Okay, associated with the load. Okay, okay, so once we have considered all the capacitance terms, after considering all the capacitance terms, what we will be doing is, we, instead of representing each transistor with these much of complex capacitors into the symbol or representation, what we will be doing is we will be just writing out the transistor symbol. Okay, so whatever connections are there, that will be we will be making the connections. But instead of writing all the capacitance, individual capacitances, we will be combining all the capacitances to a single capacitance term that will be considered as your C load. Okay, so this C load is called the lumped capacitance, LUMPED, lumped capacitance. Okay, so this C load will be a lumped capacitance that will be combining the oxide capacitance of these two inverters, these two transistors, and then junction capacitance. Okay, this is oxide capacitance, these two are junction capacitance, and interconnect capacitance, and capacitance or parasitic capacitance generated by the next stage whatever connected to our present circuit. Okay, so after combining these all the components of capacitor, that will become considered as a lumped capacitance. We will be using C load for analysis of any circuit. So any circuit is there, if we are connecting C load into the output terminal, that means it has incorporated all the parasitic capacitances associated with either interconnect or due to the next stage or within their own transistor parasitic capacitances. Okay, so this will be the basic representation while we will be analyzing. So what is the need of this C load? Yes. So what happens, suppose any inverter is there, we have designed. Okay, so once we have designed any inverter, so in the lab part you might have seen like how the designing could be done, how we can analyze their DC characteristics or transient characteristics. So in that, if there is no capacitor, if no capacitance is connected, so we will be saying like uh, any circuit we have designed, but we have not tested that design for a practical purpose. Suppose inverter is we are designing, so it will always be there, like one inverter is there, then it will be having some output, and that output will be connected to some other terminal, some you can say next stage it will be connected. Okay, or it will be connected to some load. Okay, to some load it will be connected, so that load will be having some effect on its output. So to practically analyze an digital circuit, what we do is we take capacitance value, some defined capacitance value that could be resembling the load once this design circuit is going to be used for practical applications. Okay, so once it is going to be used in practical circuit applications, so we will be analyzing this circuit by considering some practical load. Okay, that load will be your C load. Okay, and C load itself, if we are not using this C load, it will have already considered the parasitic and all other capacitances. But once we are including the C load, that will be considering with respect to the future point of view, like we are going to connect it into a practical circuit, so it will be having some load. So any circuit is there that should be analyzed for having some certain loads. Okay, so that's why we connect uh, load capacitance. Okay, so now we will see the switching characteristics of a CMOS inverter. So once we have seen the load capacitance, that will be the lumped capacitance consisting of all the components of the different parasitic capacitances and also interconnect and the next stage capacitances also. So suppose this is the inverter, in that we have connected it to a load capacitor. Okay, so we will analyze like how the transition or how the switching of the output voltage terminal is going to take place, and how we will be calculating the different timing constraints. So like a delay is there, so how the delay is being calculated. So this is an input. Okay, so V input is there. So in that V input, so the input, whenever we are going to consider an input, that input will be a pulse. Okay, so it will be 0, for some time, then it will be 1 for some time, and again it will be having 0, and then again it will go on 1 and 0, similar to this. So this is a pulse input. So an inverter is considered to be having a pulse input. So this is the practical, this is the ideal pulse. We call it ideal pulse. In ideal pulse, once it is 0, it will be directly switching to 1 without any delay. Okay, but the practical pulse will be given like this. So this is a practical pulse, and this one is your ideal one. Okay, so this is this one. This one is an ideal one. Okay, but this is a practical pulse. Okay, so a practical pulse will be having some low value, and that low value will not be equals to 0 all the time. Okay, but it will be having some value that will be very close to a 0, that will be represented by VOL that we have seen while calculating. Okay, so in some cases it could be 0, it could be some positive value. And before switching from low value to high value, and that high value could be VOH. Okay, so from low value to high value, it will take some time. So this is the total time it is taking from switching from low value to high value. Okay, similarly, again, once it is high, so from switching from high to low value, it will be taking some finite amount of time instead of 0 time taken by the ideal pulse. This one is the ideal one, but this is the practical one. Okay, so practical one will be taking some time, sufficient time, finite time to switch from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0. Okay, or low to high or high to low. So suppose this is the practical pulse. With respect to this practical pulse, okay, so what happens, we will be getting some output. Okay, so in that, suppose this is the practical pulse given as the input. If low is the input, at that time the output will be high, and that high output will be equals to VOH value. Okay, and once this VOH value has been obtained, so VOL is being changing, and it has started increasing from this point, and this is the point where it has increased the 50%. Okay, and this is the total highest value, that is VOH value, that it has achieved. But in the output terminal, input has started at this point. Okay, so at this point input has started to increase, but there will be no change into the output at this point. So output will be remaining the same whatever it was previously. So it was high, it will remain high. It will change only when the input has reached to the 50%. Okay, so once the input has reached to the 50%, then only the output will change. So once it is 50%, that means it was low, it will be taken as the low. In case of input low, at that time the output will be high. And again, once it is going upward, this upward will not be indicated within this time. It will be indicated once it has crossed the middle. Okay, up to the 50%, it will be crossing, then only considered as that input has changed to a high value. Okay, once the input has changed to high value, the output starts to decrease. It will take some time to decrease from high to low value. Okay, so it will be decreasing. Okay, and it will keep on decreasing. Once it has reached to high, it will, if it is high, it will be low. So if it is high, it will be taking some time to reach to the low value, and again this will be there. And again here, what happens, the the input high value has started to decrease at this point, but at this point there will be no effect in the output value. So output value will start to increase once the input has reached the 50% of the highest value. If it reach at this point, beyond that it is going to low, then output will be high, so it will start to increase from there. Okay, okay, so this is how we practically analyze transition of an output voltage of an inverter. So there are some terms we will be considering. So in that, so suppose this is the point at which the input has reached the 50%. It is represented by T0, and again once it is high and it is going to be 0 at the time at which the output has reached the 50%. So that is represented by T1. Then T1 minus T2. So T1 minus T2 will be considered as tau PHL. So tau PHL represents the propagation delay. So tau P, so this propagation delay will be represented by tau P. Okay, but it is written like tau PHL. So tau PHL means output is changing from, or this is the propagation delay. Tau P is propagation delay for changing output from high to low. Once the output is going to be changed from high to low, then how much propagation delay it is taking place, that will be represented by tau P HL. So tau P HL will be the time, the 50% time of the input, at which the input is at 50% value, to the 50% value of the output. So whatever difference in time between the 50% of the output with the 50% of the input is there, that will be considered as tau P HL. Okay. Similarly, there will be another term that will be called tau P LH. So tau P LH will be, this tau P represents the propagation delay. Propagation delay for output voltage for going to be low to high. So there will be a transition from low to high. So this is a low output and it is going to be high. So whatever time it is going to take from 50% of the input, at that time the input is switching from high to low. So input is switching from high to low, then output will be switching from low to high. So it tau P LH is there. So this LH will be for the output voltage. So output is going to be low to high. So it will be 50% of the input switching from high to low, and then the 50% of the output switching from low to high. This difference will be considered as the your tau P LH value. Okay, so there will be two terms used frequently to find out the delay. Okay, so this delay will be derived by this tau P HL value and tau P LH value. Okay, so difference, there are the definition of tau P HL and tau P LH. So the tau P HL is the time delay between the 50% transition of the rising input voltage and the 50% transition of the falling output voltage. Okay, so this is the basic definition, and one more term we will be considering like uh, this is like input is there. So input is considered to be VOL to VOH. Okay, so it is changing from low to high. So this is like rising. Input is rising. Okay, and again here our input is changing from high to low. So it is falling from high to low voltage. So there is another term. It's called rise time and fall time. Okay, rise time and fall time. So rise time and fall time will be considered to be the voltage of either, it would be in terms of input and output voltage. So rise time will be the V 90%, whatever time it is taking to reach 90%, that is time to reach 90% minus time to reach 10%. That means from 10% to 90% it is taking, sorry, it will be, okay. So how much time it will be taking to rise from 10% voltage to 90%, that will be considered as your rise time. Similarly, the fall time means it has starting, it has at 90%, it has at high value and it is going to be switching to the low value. So it will be considered as whatever time it is there uh, taking to reach the 10% from the time it has been at 90%. Okay, so this will be your rise time and fall time. So in this so this is defined as so at this point to this point. Suppose this is the 90%, sorry, 10%. So this is 10% and this is the 90% level. We will take in some other color. Okay. Suppose this is the level of 90% and 10%. So this is the 90% and this is the 10%. So whatever type is there, this one and this time. So this time will be considered as rise time. Similarly, the time that is this one and this time is considered as the fall time. Okay, so this is your T rise and this is the time your T fall. So in the practical part, when we will be dealing with different inverter designs, in that whatever output we are getting, okay, so this could be in terms of input. Okay, so this we have analyzed in terms of input. Similarly, in terms of output, we will be also dealing with similar way. Like suppose this is the, okay, this is the maximum output. So whatever 90% of this will be there, and this is the minimum output. So whatever 10% of it will be there. So this will be giving you, okay, so from here to this value will be your fall time, and similarly from this value to this value will be considered as the rise time. Okay, so in design point of view, whenever we are going to design an circuit, a digital circuit, in that we should be focusing like our rise time and fall time should be similar. Okay, so as a design point of view, tau rise should be similar to tau fall. If this is the condition we have met while designing, this will be considered a fair design. Okay, so our motive while designing a circuit should be like our rise time and fall time should be same, or in terms of tau PHL and tau PLH, this will also be similar. Okay, so if this is the similar, then we will be considering like our design is fair enough. We are doing this type of analysis, and once we know the tau PHL and tau PLH, the delay will be considered like the delay of the circuit will be given by the sum of tau PHL plus tau PLH divided by 2. This could be an average of these two, or we call it delay will be, the delay will be maximum of these two. Okay, so if we have designed the circuit that is a fair design, or we have included like the tau PHL and tau PLH are same, then this formula will be good enough to give you the delay time. But if somehow we are unable to design the circuit so that it has same tau PHL and tau PLH value, then in that case the delay will be given by the maximum of these two. So whatever the maximum value is there with respect to these two values, that will be considered as your delay time. Okay, and this is how we have seen like tau PHL and tau PLH. But now we will be deriving this tau PHL and tau PLH in terms of different voltage components. Okay, so we will be deriving this formula. So starting with the one concept like output is changing from high to low. Okay, so that means we are going to derive the tau P HL. So once the output is going from high to low, in that case your output voltage, that is V output, will be having okay, so output voltage at the starting should be having at the maximum value, that is VOH, and it is going to be discharged. So this discharging will be because of, so once it is high means this high will be represented by the capacitor value. This once the capacitor has charged to a high value, that will be your output voltage. Once this capacitor is going to be discharged, this will be your, after discharging, what will be the output, that will be your the low value. Okay, so once the capacitor has charged to VOH value and it is switching from high to low, this capacitor will be discharging by the path when the driver transistor, that is NMOS, is turned on. When this is on, it will be going to be discharging the capacitor value. So once the capacitor value is discharged, we will be separating like in what particular mode this transistor is going to be operating. Okay, so at the starting VOH value is there. Okay, and it will be discharging, and this is the point at which the V 50% of VOH is there. So this is the point at V 50%, and this is the point where input will be the 50%. 50% of this is the ideal one. So if it is considering the practical one, this will be the practical input. So this will be the 50% of the practical input. So 50% of practical input to the 50% of the output will be considered as tau p HL. In that case, we will be breaking it into two parts. So in between switching from VOH to V 50%, the transistor, the NMOS transistors, initially it will be operating in saturation region. So up to this region, it will be operating in saturation region. And after that, when it is at this point, this will be considered the point at which it is switching from saturation to linear mode. Okay, so this will be the region in which it will be operating in linear mode. Okay, so how we are going to find out whether it is operating linear or saturation region? So that will be decided by the different terminal voltages. So we will be finding out the VDS value and VGS value. With respect to VGS and VDS value, we can find like when output is from VOH to VOH minus VTN value, this is the point at which the switching between saturation to linear will be taking place. So once we know the region in which the transistor is going to operate, we will be using that particular region current. Okay, if it is saturation, we will be using ID saturation to derive this current equation. And similarly, if it is in region linear region, we will be using ID linear, that is linear current equation, to derive this time, whatever time it will be taking. Okay, so finally the tau p HL will be given by, so in this case tau p HL will be given by T1 minus T0. So this tau p HL will be given by T1 minus T0. Okay, so T1 minus T0 will be considered as your tau p HL. So initially we will be finding T0 and T1 difference, and then we will be finding T1 dash and T1 difference. Okay, so once we consider the first case where the NMOS is operating in saturation region, at that time ID, that is drain current through the transistor, will be given by Kn by 2 V in minus Vt n square, that is the equation of saturation current. Okay, so input voltage will be equals to VOH. Okay, so why? Because here the input we are giving is high value. Okay, so input is high, at that time the output V is going to be switching, so we are considering V output V input is equals to VOH value. Okay, in this case it is operating in saturation region. We will find out by using this expression. Okay, this inequalities, from there we can get the condition of saturation operation. So once we know the relation, okay, so in that we need to switch the time. Actually this is ID. So ID, what is ID is given by the current is given like what is ID. So ID expression is given by dq by dt. So change in charge with respect to time is given by the current. Okay, okay, or we call it, we need to change the time, so we will be using like dt will be dq by I, that is current. and this Q will be given by C into V. So Q, that is charge, will be given by C into V, or we call it C. C will be your load capacitance and V will be your output voltage, and then I will be here. So dt will be there. So once we will be integrating this t from this, we need to integrate this t from t0 to t1 dash. Once we are integrating this from t0 to t1, at that time the output voltage is changing from VOH to VOH minus this one. Okay. So we will be changing from VOH to this one. So we will be integrating it. So dt integration t0 to t1 dash will be minus C load. So because this is decreasing, okay, so because output is D output, we will be using with respect to D output, because C load will be constant, so only D output will be changing. So D output is changing from high to low, okay, so that's why there is a negative sign. And once we will be solving it, we will be getting like T1 dash minus T0 will be given by this equation. Okay. Similarly, for the second case also, we will be considering the linear mode operation. With respect to linear mode operation, this will be the given equation. And once this is the given equation, we will be again integrating it with respect to T1 dash to T1. Okay. At that time, the output will be changing from VOH minus VTN to V50%. Okay. So with respect to solving this, we will be getting T1 minus T1 dash will be given this. So suppose this is the second equation, this, and the previous one was the first equation, and this one the first equation. So after adding the first and second, okay, so after adding the first and second equation, we will be getting tau PHL will be equals to C load divided by Kn VOH minus VTN in bracket 2VT divided by VOH minus VT plus ln 4 VOH minus VTN divided by VOH plus VOL minus 1. Okay, so this is the expression, final expression we will be getting with respect to tau p HL. But what we need to see, like, we need to think in terms of design perspective. Okay, so once we are going to design and any inverter, and that inverter should be having what particular delay, that will be depending on this value. So in terms of design perspective, the terms that we can change while designing a circuit will only be depending on this value, okay, Kn value, or the value that is VOH. So VOH will also be depending on the Kn value, the same transconductance parameter. Okay, so this VOH or the VOL, VOH, these are the different values that a designer can change. Okay, so in terms of designing point of view, we will be seeing it. So this Kn is given by mu n COX W by L. So in terms of W by L, it is there. So it will be, so that we can say from here that tau PHL is directly proportional to this. So this two will be a constant value. So we can say like tau P, not directly, it will be inversely. So tau PHL, thank you sir, will be percent. Okay. This will be inversely proportional to K of Kn, that is transconductance parameter. So from there we can say like tau P HL will be proportional to L, like Kn is directly proportional to W by L, so it will be W by L. So this L will be coming out to be on the top. So tau P HL will be directly proportional to L and W. Okay. So from there, what we can see, like, if tau p HL is high, the delay of a circuit will be high. Okay, if tau p HL of a circuit is low, then delay of that circuit will be low. So to make this tau p HL low, what we need to do is we need to use L minimum value. Okay, so in terms of design perspective, we are just seeing. So if we need to have a low delay of a circuit, then we have to use the length of the channel should be low. Okay, the length of the channel should be low and width of the channel should be high. So it will be low and it should be high. Okay, so this is how we go for designing any circuit in terms of different parameters. Okay, so here it is direct relation between length and width with respect to the tau p hl. Okay, but there will be other parameters also that will be depending on the L and W value. So we need to have a compromise, or we call it a trade-off. So there will be a trade-off between either delay, or we will be seeing like what is the effect of length and width with respect to power. We will see later this in this course also. Okay, so this is how we should be thinking while designing any circuit. So this is tau PHL. Similarly, we can find out with respect to tau PHL, we can find out with respect to the tau PLH also. So here, this is whenever it is written VOH. So VOH in case of CMOS inverter is given to be VDD and VOL value is 0. So once we will be putting this VOH value is equals to VDD and VOL value is equals to 0, we can get this is the modified one. So this is the modified one for the CMOS inverter. So this is the tau p HL value for the CMOS inverter. So it will be low C load divided by Kn VDD minus VT n. Okay. So in terms of VDD also we can see like, so once we are going to increase the VDD, okay. So once we are going to increase, this delay will be reduced. So even if VDD is we are going to use is 5 volt, and once we are going to use VDD as 3 volt, we can see like in this case the delay will be less, and in this case the delay will be high. Okay, so these are the analysis you need to perform while in uh, your practical classes. So in practical classes you have to see like what is the effect of changing the VDD on the delay. Okay, so the change of VDD with respect to delay will be given by this expression. So similarly we can get the tau p LH also. Okay, so once we have got the tau p LH, once we are going to put like VOH is equals to VDD and VOL is equals to 0, we can get this as the final expression of tau p LH for case for the CMOS inverter case. Okay. Yes. Okay. So now we will see like this is the channel width is given. Okay. This has taken to be an example. So suppose this is the channel width is given and this is the propagation delay. So propagation delay here is the same delay. That will be an average of tau PHL and tau PLH value. So once we are going to increase the channel width, we can see like initially the delay was this value, and once we are increasing the channel width, we are having the delay, it is reducing from 1.4 to around 0.2 nanoseconds. Okay, so this delay is reducing with respect to increase in the channel width. So this is the relation we have seen, like the delay will be inversely proportional to the width. So same delay plot is given here. And similarly, suppose we are increasing, once we are going to increase the width, there will be a disadvantage, like once we are going to increase the width, if we consider the area, that how much area it will be required, silicon area it will be taking to design a particular circuit. Once we are going to increase the width, it will be having higher area consideration. Okay, so in that case we have to make a trade-off, like what area we need and what delay we need. So with respect to area and with respect to delay, we need to have a trade-off, like how or what minimum or maximum value of W we should be using to have a balance between area requirement and the delay requirement. Okay. So based on that, what we can do is we will be multiplying the area and the delay formula Okay, so whatever area and delay value is there, we will be multiplying it. Okay, so once this is area and delay product, and we will be varying this area and delay product with respect to our again the channel width. Okay, so we will be finding a relation like there will be a curve that will be having a minimum value. So this minimum value will be the point of trade-off. This will be giving you the point of trade-off. Okay, so at this point the minimum delay will be there and minimum area will be there. Okay, so to find the trade-off between two parameters, what we can do is we can plot the multiplication of these two parameters with respect to the variable parameter that we are going to set. Okay, so width is going to be set. So with respect to width, we will be plotting area into delay product, and whenever we will be finding the minimum point where this w value will be a value some value. So with respect to this minimum value of this area and delay plot, product plot, that will be giving you the optimized or the trade-off point for the area and delay uh, parameters. Okay, so this is how we should be defining. So we will be closing. Okay, so we will be closing for the day.